We know each other. He's a friend from work.
All right, let's do this thing.
Okay.
Hey guys, I'm Justin, Screen Handle OST Bear, and I am joined by my co-host, Hillary. Oh, what's your screen handle?
Do I have one?
I don't know. You need. It's important to have. Like the whole premise of our channel is first name and then screen handle. I mean, you could be the only one, but then there's going to be a lot of people who are pissed that I forced them to do this whole time. So we got a new show here for you guys. We're going to discuss film. We're going to discuss it from two different angles. So what a lot of people may not know about Hillary is Hillary actually studied film. Why don't you talk a little bit about that, Hillary?
I spent 3 years in Australia. I worked with a production company. I took a film school, and I worked on short films and feature film.
Both obviously huge nerds. I think you kind of have to be part of the channel. It's a prerequisite. So we both recently saw Thor Ragnarok. For those of you who don't know, this is actually based off of a really fantastic storyline. So it stems from two different storylines. The first one is Spiral and Men and Gods. So what's happened in the comic books and how it diverges a little bit from the film is Thor has actually decided to rule over Earth. We end up in this far in the future timeline where he's actually killed a bunch of the Avengers. We end up dealing with some time travel stuff, and Thor goes back in time to stop himself from kind of becoming a tremendous D-bag. Thor ends up returning Asgard back to where it belongs and trying to resume his life as king, but he's finding this a lot more difficult as he no longer possesses the Odin Force. Ragnarok starts to happen. Loki opens this all up. He has found a way to get Surtur to forge copies of Mjolnir. All of Asgard comes to ruin. It's a fantastic storyline. I would suggest you guys check it out. Now, this diverges a little bit from the film.
So much has happened since I last saw you. I lost my hammer, like yesterday, so that's still pretty fresh.
We're actually now going to throw it back to Hillary, and Hillary's going to talk a little bit about what she thought of the film.
Okay, so I actually really enjoyed the film. It was funny. The humor I was hoping for, basically. Having seen everything the director's done, I knew his sense of humor was going to be in there, and he wanted to bring out the funny side of Thor. The effects were really good. It was well filmed, well directed. There was like the little things, there was the little details he went out his way to make sure were there. He threw in little things for the Kiwis and for the New Zealanders, and because he's from New Zealand, and Australians. Like the ship colors were actually the same color as the flags of the Aboriginals and the Maori. So there was little art pieces in the background that were Maori, and he used his very Kiwi sense of humor, which to me is hilarious. I thought it was interesting the way he took everything that Thor put his identity into and just took it away from him. Like Mjolnir and his hair. Like, which some people like, why? But
I mean, that was a fantastic head of hair. And,
it was, right?
You know, it was. I remember that first commercial and seeing him with short hair. I was like,
what?
Whoa. I didn't even know this guy had short hair. Like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
Like, Chris Hemsworth, what have you done? What have you done to yourself, Chris Hemsworth?
Right.
I wasn't even worried about Thor at that point. I was worried about Chris Hemsworth.
Your beautiful hair, why? He took Ragnarok, which was supposed to be the end of all things, and it felt like an end. It felt like the end of Thor's, like, basically teenager or childhood phase, but it was also the end of Asgard itself, like the place. Which, spoilers!
So for me, I want to preface my end of things by saying, first of all, I did enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
But it felt less like Thor Ragnarok and more like Guardians of the Ragnarok than anything else.
And I can see that.
So, so where my issue comes in was very much a huge departure just in the character. Like, obviously storylines can have a tendency to diverge from the comic books. Age of Ultron in the movies was not at all like Age of Ultron in the comic books. And Thor Ragnarok in the comic books was actually this really heartbreaking and involved tale. And then for the movies, it was this very much lighthearted. We got Led Zeppelin playing in the background. We got Jeff Goldblum doing Jeff Goldblum. You know, he's Goldbluming it up like it's no tomorrow, right? And Thor ends up becoming this kind of bumbling idiot wandering around the galaxy. Like in the first movie, he's explaining quantum physics to Jane Foster, and then now he can like barely, you know, tell a joke, right? Like he has very little understanding of basically anything going on around him.
Yeah.
I mean, that having been said, I don't know much about the director or previous work that he's done. I do know that it's generally well loved. What can you tell me about kind of the stuff he's done before?
The one that most people know of is What We Do in the Shadows, which was a vampire mockumentary. It had the script, but the dialogue was basically unscripted because he just likes to make it feel natural. And he did bring that to Thor a lot because I read somewhere that, yeah, there was a lot of the dialogue was unscripted in Thor.
This actually brings me to a moment of humble pie I have to eat. So we were actually together this weekend filming for the 48-hour film challenge, and the Thor Ragnarok trailer dropped, and I was initially so jacked, and I'm watching it, and I was right into it, and I was feeling real good about it. And then Thor, it gets to that battle scene, and the Hulk bursts out of the room. Yeah, he's a friend from work, and I lost my mind. Yes. I yelled at the top of my lungs, "Are you f***ing kidding me?"
Yeah, you did.
And I was instantly no longer interested in this movie. However, it turns out there's a very sweet reason behind that, and I had to eat some humble pie.
There was a kid visiting the set. It was a Make-A-Wish kid.
Yeah, Make-A-Wish. So a dying child is visiting the set. So here we gotta specify this: dying little boy meeting his hero. Okay, and so then what happens next?
They let him write a line for the film, and that was the line. He's a friend from work.
He's my friend from work. Yeah, and so of course I look like a giant asshole now, losing my mind over that one line. So I will say this, I went into the movie and I was like, okay, I promise not to get mad at this one part. I promise I have to do that because otherwise I'm making fun of a dying child, and that's just, that
hard.
will eat at my conscience for the rest of my life.
Because it is out of character, but the story behind it is like, oh.
Well, my problem is the departure from all of the other movies.
Right, okay.
So he's, you know, this very serious, kind of down-to-earth kind of guy who, you know, takes things seriously, and he has the occasional joke. You know, he's talking with Phil Coulson about Bill Schneip, and he's like, oh, you don't have those here? No, I don't think so. Oh, well, they're repulsive. You know, like he has those joke moments, but he's not cracking wise the whole time, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, that departure in character was problematic. How do you feel as a person who makes films? How do you feel that the character is so grossly different from all the other iterations we've seen of him?
I feel like what he was trying to do was like a progression, him being serious and him having been around humans enough that some of their lighter ways rubbed off on him.
Okay.
Whether that worked.
Yeah, and I mean, now that you've said it, I'm thinking like, oh, yeah, okay, I guess. Like at the beginning, he does mention he's been kind of cruising around the galaxy trying to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things where it very much felt like a different movie.
It did.
Of course, the other thing that this all ties into is World War Hulk. So World War Hulk in the comics, Hulk ends up on a prison planet. Yeah. He's in a tournament. It's not with the Grandmaster, but he's in a tournament kind of fighting for the thrill of the crowd, and he actually leads a revolution to kind of free everybody.
Yeah.
And so one of the characters that shows up in the comics and the movies is Korg. Now, Korg in the comic books is very much like a Lancelot, serious, you know, oh, yes, we shall fight for honor and bravery. And then, you know, in the movies, oh, I step on my best friend.
That was the director doing the voice. Sorry, I can't stop laughing.
So, yeah, one of the final thoughts, and something I'm super interested in hearing your thoughts over. I was so blown away by, what is her name?
Cate Blanchett.
Yeah.
I love her.
I was so blown away by Cate Blanchett as Hela, this is one of the best villains
Yes.
for me that has shown up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Absolutely.
She absolutely killed it, and I felt the psycho bleeding off of her at any given moment.
I love her. She's legitimately probably my favorite actress working right now. Forget all the young up and comers. She is to me the top. I absolutely love her. She just nails everything. Like, she was perfect. Like, she just did that cold look in her eyes.
Yes.
And the psycho. And just like, oh my gosh.
She enveloped that
She
character.
did. She does that in
I
every
think for
role.
me,
I love her.
I think for me, like, I would be, if she doesn't get some sort of at least Oscar nod, I think I would be upset.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that role was just absolutely perfect for her.
She was
so
brilliant casting.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think they did a really great job casting.
Yeah, the casting, of course, I mean, a lot of really great cast kind of spilling over and continuing over, like Loki. I did enjoy Loki's progression in the movie, kind of villain to kind of progressing towards heroism.
But still all about saving his own skin.
Yeah, and I like how they kind of tied that redemption, that bit of redemption story in for him. So final thoughts, the movie was absolutely fantastic. I would recommend seeing it, but if you're a hardcore comic book enthusiast, you might find yourself a little bit disappointed. So Hillary, as a filmmaker, what did you think?
I thought it was a very well filmed, very well directed movie. It was exactly what it was trying to be. I couldn't find any film flaws. It was one of the best made movies of the year. Not the best, but one of the best for sure for me of the year.
All right, great. Thanks very much, guys. Have a gooder.
Bye.